I mean, and that applies to almost everything involved with this, like on the performance end, like you do need to pace yourself if you're just like putting it all out there and then you're just like almost passing out. I mean, it's, you got to be careful, especially at really hot venues. Like there have been shows that where I have felt like I almost was going to pass out just because it's so hot in there. And, just like simple stuff like your parents would tell you, like, stay hydrated, eat well. That's really important stuff. Like it sounds funny to younger kids, but it's just, it'll help you last as long as a band like us has.
Well, there's a thing that like in your 20s, like you don't have to really think about that stuff so much, right? Because like you just don't. It's not till you're past 30 that like gradually starts to take a toll, and then definitely past 40, it like really you have to really make an effort, and we know what happens when you don't. Like you just fall apart. But still, I think that even in your 20s, like young bands, they can still burn themselves out. They can still get hurt. Like I think if you're in it for the long haul, you got to take a long haul type mentality, and try to establish habits that will keep you from, uh, you know, hurting yourself so bad that you're going to have to stop, for instance, or wrecks your health so bad that you're not going to be able to continue, or like any of these things. They might not. It might not matter this right now, like on this tour, when you're 25 or something, like, but if you factor doing this for years and years and years over decades is what you want to keep doing, you have to take that into consideration a lot. And I know that the bands I know who have pulled it off, like the musicians and bands I know who have pulled it off, who are still around, like they all at some point got their shit together when it comes to that stuff. Like, because otherwise they don't they either they don't stay alive or they just can't physically do it anymore. It's like there's no, like, it's not pretty, basically.
Yeah, I agree. You have to be aware of, your abilities, and it's the same as an athlete. You don't see any championship athletes like still doing it in their 50s at the level that they did at their 20s. So you really have to, be smart about trying to maintain that level as long as you can.
I think that metal already is bad for you. Like when it comes to like physically speaking, like metal it's just not smart to play, because like it's just bad. It's just, man, you're just gonna wreck your, like, for your neck, for your arms, your wrists, like your back.
I stopped headbanging like probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Probably a good idea.
Like I felt like I had done it enough, like to the point where I just grandfathered myself in, and I was like, "Hey, Tony Iommi ain't headbanging." Like I think if your riffs are good enough, you don't need to prove yourself, like, physically and like visibly like that. And aside from that, like all the other guys are headbanging like crazy around me, so I just felt like I didn't need to do it anymore, and I play better live because I'm not halfway focused on, I need to headbang at this speed during this part. And it's like you're driving a stick shift, like you got to change gears with riffs. And like now I'm just focused on the guitar and not having to do something else along with it.
Headbanging well is actually hard to do. It's when playing a show, in order to not have it look stupid, and actually be in time properly, and not fuck up your playing. Like, it's actually not an easy thing to do. But did you hurt yourself, or did you feel like you were getting close to hurting yourself?
I didn't hurt myself. I mean, there was definitely times where I'd be like, Jesus, I pulled something in my neck, or like my back killing me. Something seemed out of socket for a little minute or two.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't to the point where like the chiropractor was saying, "Oh, it looks like you got in a car accident." But I've heard some people actually have that said to them.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, and that's something that you might end up not being able to walk eventually. I mean, it didn't scare me into not wanting to do it anymore. I just kind of like what you just brought up about, like, sometimes if you don't headbang like at the right pace or something, it just doesn't look right, And I think I felt like I was getting to that point. Like, I'd see videos and I'd be like, wow, I'm starting to look like dumb doing that. So I just stopped doing it.
Fair enough. Yeah, like, I feel like it's one of those things where it's either got to be like dead the fuck on, or just don't do it. Like, there's no in between.
Yeah, I think I did pretty well into, at least up to my 30s. As soon as I hit my 40s, though, it was just kind of like, damn, man. I was almost like not dreading it, but just like, fuck, here we go. I got to fucking headbang again. I still love playing guitar.
Yeah.
But like the headbanging became like something that I didn't really want to do anymore.
I don't blame you, man. I remember
when you got Corpse Grinder next to you doing those crazy head spins, nobody's looking at me anyway.
Dude, his neck is insane.
I'd rather be heard, not seen.
But yeah, I understand. Like I totally get it. And like, I remember my first festival tour, so like in 2007, and I was in my 20s, and there were a bunch of bands that of all ages, like, from younger than us all the way into their 60s. And I remember all the dudes who were like 10 years older than us and 20 years older, like the dudes that were like 36 to like 46, 50-ish. Yeah. All of them, every single one of them had neck and back problems. I just remember logging that in my head, like, this is the future. This is what I have to look forward to. Yeah. And, but like, the thing I did notice too was that the ones that are still around to this day, like Behemoth, for instance, they were on that tour. Like, I remember they already had good habits back then, and it translates. Like, you look at, if I think back to 20 years ago, or 17 years ago, or whenever that was, and I look forward to like, who's still around, who's kicking ass, what were they like back then? It's interesting to me that like a band like Behemoth back then already were like stretching. They were already smart about exercise. They were like handling their shit. And it's interesting to be able to like look back through the years and see like the progression of things, and see that basically this advice to like pace yourself isn't based on bullshit. Like I know the people who have come out the other side, or are still going and are doing pretty okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great example. Like, Behemoth is definitely an example of like a professional group of guys that have long-term goals, and they know how to get it, and they know what's detrimental and what's a positive thing for where they're trying to get. That's why they're one of the top bands right now. They're very disciplined. Of course, they like to have fun, and they'll party a little bit, but they wake up in the morning and they jog and they lift weights and they stretch, and they're going to the gym even on days off. Like, I remember we did a tour with them and we had a day off, and like I was I was walking by the gym at the hotel, and there's Nurgle running on the treadmill.
Yeah, of course. During the day on that tour, their trailer became the weight room. So like I'd go to their trailer every other day and lift weights with them, and that just became like the gym for the tour.
Mm.
And yeah, man, it's not a surprise when you see people behaving like that, and then you see that things have gone well, because it's not just about, oh, he runs, or it's not just about any one of those things. It's like a big picture.
Positive energy.
Yep. Interesting.
Lots of positive energy coming from all those guys.